On my 25th birthday, I put on the most expensive suit I'd ever owned. An Armani custom-made, deep blue. My initials, Eziel, were embroidered on the collar. Grandfather had given it to me as a birthday gift, ordered from Italy 3 months earlier. Yuanzhou, he'd said, you're the firstborn grandson of the Lin family. 25 is a turning point. After today, you're a grown man. Back then, I thought he meant legacy and responsibility. Now I realize he meant exile and rupture. The banquet was set in the back garden of the old Lin estate. A crystal dome rose over the 300-square-meter lawn. The lights scattered like stars across the sky. The guest list read like half the business elite, mayoral aides, deputy heads of banking regulators, CEOs of multi-billion-dollar real estate firms. My mother, Vivian Lin, wore a Chanel couture gown, weaving through the crowd with a glass of red wine, smiling with practiced grace. My father, James Lin, trailed behind a group of middle-aged men, nodding and bowing like a dog tamed too long. And my grandfather, Charles Lin, sat in the seat of honor, leaning on a rosewood cane, his face stormy. I knew what he was angry about. 3 days earlier, I told him about Sophia. I wanted to marry her. You're insane, he'd said, smashing his teacup on the floor. Shards flew up and cut my wrist. Beads of blood welled. He didn't look at it. What is Sophia? A small-town accountant. Her parents are laid-off workers. She's not fit to enter the Lin household. I love her. Love. He let out a cold laugh, like gravel scraping his throat. Yuanzhou, you carry the Lin name. My blood runs in your veins. You have no right to talk about love. Your marriage is an asset, a bargaining chip for resources. The Zhang's daughter, the lease girl, any of them are 10,000 times better than that, Sophia. I said nothing, but I didn't look away. He stared at me for 3 seconds, then suddenly smiled. A calm smile, calm enough to chill the bone. Fine, you have guts. Tomorrow at your birthday banquet, I'll give you a gift. That gift was throwing me out like trash in front of 300 guests. Midway through the banquet, the MC raised his microphone with a broad smile. Now, please welcome the helmsman of the Lin Corporation, Mr. Charles Lin, to give a speech. Applause thundered. Grandfather stood, leaning on his cane as he walked slowly to the stage. Today he wore a deep red tang suit, his hair combed immaculately, looking like a kindly old god of longevity. He took the mic, smiled. Then his gaze swept the crowd and locked precisely onto me in the corner. Today is my grandson Ethan Lin's 25th birthday, he said, voice strong and resonant. Thank you all for coming. Glasses were raised. I lifted mine, a strange guilt rising in my chest. Maybe he was only harsh with his words, but deep down he cared. After all, I was the eldest grandson he'd raised with his own hands. When I had fevers as a child, he stayed up all night by my bedside. When I was bullied at school, he went to the principal himself. I must be overthinking it. But then grandfather's voice sharpened abruptly, the smile vanishing. The wrinkles on his face turned hard as carved stone. Today, I have an announcement. The room fell silent. The air grew heavy, crushing the breath out of everyone. Ethan Lin, effective immediately, is expelled from the Lin family. His inheritance is revoked. All properties, vehicles, and shares under his name are reclaimed. From this day forward, he has nothing to do with the Lin Corporation. Dead silence. In a 300-person banquet hall, you could hear the wind whistle through the crystal chandelier. The glass in my hand slipped. Red wine splashed across the white tablecloth, blooming into a glaring crimson stain. I couldn't feel my fingers, couldn't feel my heartbeat. My mind buzzed, as if something were collapsing. Grandfather, I heard my own voice quaver. What did you say? I can't understand plain English. His eyes were cold as a winter blade. I said, you've been cast out of the Lin family. My mother shot to her feet, face ashen. Dad, it's Yuanzhou's birthday. Whatever it is, let's talk at home. Shut up. Grandfather's cane slammed onto the marble floor, cracking it. Too much kindness makes a worthless son. This is exactly how you spoiled him, letting him defy the family. My mother's eyes reddened, her lips trembling, but she couldn't get a word out. She looked at my father, that man, James Lin, hoping he would say something, but he lowered his head, staring at the tips of his leather shoes. From beginning to end, he said nothing. This was my father, vice president of the Lin Corporation, the nominal second in command. In reality, he couldn't even order the housekeeper around. In front of grandfather, he was always that submissive figure, like a neutered cat. I used to resent him. Then I stopped pitying him. A man can be poor, but he shouldn't be spineless. He'd been spineless his whole life, unable to protect even his own son, Ethan Lin. Grandfather's voice rang out again. carrying a near-cruel composure. One last chance. Cut ties with that woman. Marry the Zhang's daughter. Then you'll still be the Lin family's firstborn grandson. Otherwise, he pulled a bank card from his pocket and tossed it to the ground. A black card, reflecting the cold light under the chandelier. There's $50,000 here. Enough for you to survive 3 months out there. If you haven't made something of yourself in 3 months, don't blame me for showing no mercy. $50,000. In front of 300 guests. The grandfather I'd revered all my life used $50,000 to buy out 25 years of upbringing. Around us, hushed whispers began. Damn, old man Lin is ruthless. Serves the kid right for being ungrateful. He rejected the Zhang's daughter for some poor girl. Kids these days have to learn the hard way. I clenched my fists, nails biting into my flesh, blood seeping from my palm. I raised my head, looking around. Those familiar and unfamiliar faces, some gloating, some sympathetic, most coldly indifferent. My uncle, Michael Lin, stood beside grandfather, a faint smile tugging at his lips. He was the biggest beneficiary of this farce. Once I was gone, he was the sole heir. His son, Nathan Lin, my cousin 2 years younger, was filming the scene on his phone, probably to post on social media. That I suddenly felt sick. This place, these people, these so-called family members, more revolting than maggots in a trash can. I bent down and picked up the black card. A flicker of contempt crossed grandfather's eyes. He thought I'd surrendered. I straightened, slipped the card into my pocket, then pulled another card from my suit's inner pocket. My paycheck card. It held $120,000 I'd saved from freelance projects during college. I placed the card on the table and slid it toward grandfather. This $120,000 is to repay the tuition you covered all these years. I'll take the $50,000 as a loan. Within 3 years, I'll pay you back tenfold. My voice wasn't loud, but enough for everyone to hear. Grandfather froze, then let out a cold laugh. Big talk. Let's see what kind of waves you can make without the Lin family. I didn't look at him again. As I turned to leave, I saw my mother covering her mouth, crying. She wanted to run after me, but grandmother held her back. My father remained head down, a stone statue rooted in place. I pushed open the banquet hall doors and walked into the night. Behind me came grandfather's voice. Continue. The banquet goes on. Don't let one unfilial descendant ruin everyone's mood. Music resumed. Laughter, clinking glasses. Small talk surged like a tide, drowning my retreating figure. I stood by the roadside, pulling out my phone to call Sophia. It rang for a long time before she picked up. Yuanzhou. Her voice was thick with sleep. She must have been woken by my call. Is the banquet over? Did you drink? Wanting to pick you up. I opened my mouth, and tears came down all at once. A 25-year-old man, squatting by the roadside, crying like an idiot. Sophia. I choked out. I've been kicked out. Silence on the other end for a few seconds. Then I heard her rustling to put on clothes. Where are you? Don't move. I'm coming to get you. I have nowhere to go. I have somewhere. I have nothing left. You have me, she said. Right then, I heard a dull thud, like she'd bumped into something. She sucked in a sharp breath of pain, but didn't stop. Slow down, I said. Don't fall. Don't worry about me. Stay right there. I'll grab a Uber. 20 minutes. Tops. After hanging up, I leaned against the street lamp, watching the dim yellow light above. The early autumn night wind brushed past. A little cold. I realized I was only wearing a dress shirt. My jacket was still in the banquet hall. It didn't matter. That jacket was bought by grandfather anyway. I touched the black card in my pocket and felt a surge of irony. $50,000. Not a small amount for an ordinary person, but for the Lin family, it wasn't even enough for a meal. Grandfather was humiliating me. He wanted me to know that without the Lin family, I was nothing. But he was wrong. 3 months ago, I really was nothing. But now, I pulled out my phone and opened an encrypted folder. Inside was a complete business plan and a fully functional core algorithm for an AI-driven construction management system. This was what I'd built over 2 years, working nights and weekends. The system was called Cloud Build. It could optimize architectural design, construction management, and energy control via AI, projected to cut costs by over 20% for large-scale projects. 2 months ago, I'd entered it in a Shenzhen tech innovation competition and won gold. 3 investment firms approached me afterward. The highest valuation offered was $80 million. I hadn't told anyone, not even Sophia, because I knew that once grandfather found out, he'd find a way to seize the project. In the Lin family, anything of value belonged to the family assets. Personal effort and talent were mere appendages to the family. I didn't want to be an appendage anymore. That a taxi pulled up in front of me. The window rolled down, revealing Sophia's anxious face. I got in. She grabbed my hand, ice cold. Why are you crying? She reached up to wipe the tears from my cheeks. Don't cry. It's okay. I'm here. She wore a plain white t-shirt and jeans, hair tied in a simple ponytail. No makeup, but her eyes were bright as stars. She wasn't some heiress, wasn't some elite daughter. She was just an ordinary girl. Grew up in a small town, came to the provincial capital for university, worked as an accountant at a tiny firm after graduation. But she was the best person I'd ever known. Sophia. I held her hand. I might have to let you suffer with me. Please. She curled her lip, as if I'm living some glamorous life now. Since being with you, when have I not suffered? Do you regret it? Regret what? Regret dating the grandson of a billionaire, then watching him get kicked out. She laughed, carefree. Oh, I regret it so much. If I'd known you were worth so much, I should have tricked you into marrying me and then dumped you. I laughed despite myself. The taxi drove through the city streets, neon lights sliding backward. I leaned against her shoulder, closing my eyes, but my mind was racing. Tomorrow, I'd go find the investor who'd handed me his card. The day after, I'd send Cloudbuild's prototype to 2 other firms. Within a month, I'd register the company. Within 3 years, I'd make every Lin family member regret today's decision, especially grandfather. I'd make him realize the chess piece he discarded was actually the most important one on the board. The taxi stopped at the gate of an old residential complex. Sophia's rental was on the 6th floor. No elevator. Half the hallway lights were broken, walls plastered with flyers. She unlocked the door with her key. One room, less than 40 square meters. Simple furniture, but neatly kept. You sleep on the bed tonight. I'll take the sofa, she said, tossing a pillow onto the couch. I'll take the sofa. Don't argue. You're in a bad mood. Need proper rest. I'm not in a bad mood, I said. I've never felt this good. She tilted her head, studying me. Really, really. I walked to the window and pushed it open. Night air poured in. Across the way, scattered windows glowed, some cooking, some arguing, children crying. Millions of people in this city, each with their own struggles. I was just one of them, but unlike them, who were pushed around by life. I intended to push back, Sophia. I turned to her. I want to tell you something. What? I built a project. She blinked. What project? I pulled up the business plan on my phone and handed it to her. She took it, leaned against the bedhead, flipping through page by page. At first she was casual, but by page 3 her expression turned serious. By page 10 she sat up straighter. When she finished, she looked at me with an unreadable expression. You made this? Yeah. When? Off and on over the past 2 years. Intense focus the last few months. All those late nights coming home were for this. More or less. She was silent a long time, then put the phone down, walked over, and hugged me. Ethan Lin, she whispered in my ear. You're going to succeed. How do you know? Because you're the man I chose. My judgment's never wrong. I laughed, hugging her tightly. Outside, the city's night sky hid the stars, but I felt one star rising, me. Early the next morning, I called that investor. Hello. Is this Mr. Chun? This is Ethan Lin, the one who showed you the project at the tech competition last week. Ethan, I was just looking for you. That system of yours gets more interesting the more I think about it. Interested in coming to my office to talk? Yes. How about 3 this afternoon? Perfect. Hanging up, I looked at the gray sky outside and drew a deep breath. Ethan Lin, starting today, you have no way back. Only win. No losing. The first 3 months of the startup, I lived like a stray dog. Not elegant, but true. Sophia and I squeezed into that 40 square meter rental. The living room doubled as an office, the dining table as a desk. The balcony was stacked with printed architectural drawings and AI algorithm drafts. Up at 6 every morning. Asleep after 2 a.m. Barely leaving the second-hand office chair I'd bought for $80. Its cushion sagged on one side, numbing my left buttock after long sits. I couldn't bear to replace it. Every dollar had to be split in half. The $50,000 grandfather gave me stayed untouched in a separate account, my shame fund. The day I made it big, I'd pay him back with interest. In cash, stack after stack slammed on his desk. Startup capital came from my $120,000 plus Sophia's $18,000, her entire savings from 2 years of work. She'd meant to send it to her parents, but gave it to me instead, telling them the company had issued a year-end bonus. If your parents knew you gave your savings to my startup, they'd break your legs. I said, they won't know. She replied, boiling instant noodles. And even if they did, it's fine. The man I chose, I trust him. The noodles were braised beef flavor, with a fried egg and greens. Our most luxurious meal in those early startup days, reserved for signing contracts or hitting major milestones. Normally we ate plain boiled noodles with soy sauce and chili oil. I took the bowl, steam fogging my face, eyes stinging. Sophia, yeah, when I'm rich, I'll take you to the best Japanese place. Uft, what's so great about Japanese? I want hot pot. Hi Dilao. Order a whole table of dishes. Leave half of it untouched just to look at. Deal. Hot pot then. She laughed, eyes crinkling. I looked at her and thought, even if I never made it big, spending my life like this with her wouldn't be so bad. But that thought lasted 3 seconds before I crushed it. I couldn't afford to stay down. I had to succeed, not to prove anything to the Lin family, but to prove it to myself. I, Ethan Lin, was not some parasite who couldn't survive without the family. The day the company was registered, October 17th, sunny and mild. We named it Cloud Build Tech, registered capital $1 million. Though paid-in capital was just over 100 grand. The business address was listed as Sophia's Rental. The scope of business was crammed with every related industry I could think of, from software development to construction consulting. The moment I got the business license, I snapped a photo and posted it to my social media with just 2 words. Let's go. Likes were few, comments sparse. My cousin Nathan left one. Wow. Young Master Lin started a company. Registered capital 1 million. Did you borrow that from Grandpa? Oh wait, you're not a Lin anymore. Ha. I didn't reply. Blocked him. Not worth wasting a second of emotion. First order of business. Turn my AI construction management system into a standardized product. The core was a deep learning model capable of auto-optimizing structural plans, material quantities, and construction schedules by analyzing historical and real-time data. Simply put, what used to take a team of engineers 3 months now took my system 3 days, with better results. Technically, I had absolute confidence. Tsinghua Architecture undergrad, Stanford CS Masters, 3 top-tier conference papers published, 2 years at the country's largest design institute. These credentials were hot commodities on any recruitment site, but in the Lin family's eyes, they were worthless. To them, degrees and ability were family accessories. They'd soon learn otherwise. Late October, I got my first inbound lead, a mid-sized regional construction firm's technical director, a balding, heavily accented guy in his 40s. He'd seen my technical post on an industry forum and was intrigued. Ethan, this AI optimization system really is amazing as you say. Mr. Liu, if you have time, I can come demo it on site. Sure, come by tomorrow. We're in the high-tech zone. Early the next morning, I put on my only decent suit, bought for a class reunion last year. Cuffs already frayed, rode the bus, transferred twice, nearly 2 hours to the high-tech zone. His company wasn't large, a 3-story building, dusty engineering trucks parked in the yard. He brought me to the conference room, called in 2 techs, and had me demo live. I connected my laptop, fed in data from one of their ongoing projects. The AI model started running, lines of data scrolling rapidly, a 3D building model rotating, disassembling, reassembling on screen. 15 minutes later, the system output the optimized plan. Steel usage down 12%, concrete down 8%. Overall schedule shortened by 18 days, all while maintaining structural safety. The room went quiet for a beat. Mr. Liu stared at the data, expression shifting from doubt to surprise to excitement. He slapped the table. Holy shit, this thing's incredible. The 2 techs leaned in, chattering about the technical details. I stood to one side, outwardly composed, palms sweating. Ethan, how much for this system? Mr. Liu asked. I did quick math. Market rate for similar BM optimization software licenses ran between 300,000 and 500,000. But I was a startup. No brand credibility. No case studies. Too high and I'd scare them off. First year license, 150,000. Annual maintenance after that, 30,000. Mr. Liu frowned. My heart dropped. Too high. He rubbed his chin, pondering. All right, let's sign. I barely kept my expression neutral. Walking out of that building, I stood by the road and drew a deep breath. Autumn wind carried the scent of osmanthus, sweet and fresh. I called Sophia. Signed. For how much? 150,000. 2 seconds of silence. Then a scream that made my ear ring. Ah, Ethan Lin, you're amazing. Hot pot tonight. Yeah, hot pot. Hanging up, I looked at the sky, so blue it hurt. White clouds drifting lazily. I suddenly remembered something grandfather once said. Yuanzhou, The most important thing in business is the first barrel of gold. Once you have that, the road ahead gets easier. He was right, but this first barrel was earned by me. Nothing to do with him. With the first client secured, the path indeed smoothed out. Mr. Liu was thrilled with the system, promoting it within the industry and referring 2 peer companies for evaluations. By year's end, we'd signed 5 clients. Total contract value over 800,000. I hired my first employee, Joe, a newly graduated programmer, skilled and grounded. Sophia quit her accounting job to handle finance and administration full-time. We returned the rental and leased a proper office downtown. 60 square meters. Not huge, but finally a legitimate workspace. Moving day. Sophia stood before the floor-to-ceiling windows. Arms spread, eyes closed, basking in sunlight. Ethan, are we going to make it big? Long way to go. I smiled. This is just the start. But I felt it. We were close to success. I watched her profile, sunlight gilding her outline, and silently vowed I'd give her a good life. Not for anything else, but because she hadn't left me at my lowest. But fate never lets anyone sail smoothly. Right after the spring festival, bad news arrived. The Lin Corporation was making moves against us. It started when one of the clients Mr. Liu had referred signed a letter of intent, then abruptly backed out. I called to ask why. He hemmed and hawed before telling the truth. Ethan, I'd love to work with you, but people from your own family's corporation came to see me. They said if I partner with your company, I can forget about surviving in this province's construction industry. My grip on the phone tightened. Who came to you? Your uncle, Michael Lin. Expected. I hung up, sat in my chair thinking for a long time. Michael's move was clever. No need to directly suppress me, just cut off my client channels. Starve me of orders. Eventually, I'd run out of ammunition and food. Then he could look down at me and say, see, without the Lin family, you're nothing. Unfortunately for him, he underestimated me. I'd anticipated this day from the start. The Lin family's influence in this province was entrenched. As long as I operated here, they'd eventually target me. So I'd laid out 2 tracks from the beginning. One in province, to accumulate initial capital and experience. Another out of province, especially the Pearl River Delta, where the Lin family's reach was limited. I flipped open my contacts and found a name. Vincent Zheng. He was the mainland business development director for Hong Kong's Zheng Corporation. 47 years old. Gold-rimmed glasses. Slow-spoken. Smiling like a fox. We'd met at last year's tech competition. He'd shown great interest in my project, pulling me aside afterward for nearly an hour of conversation. The Zheng Corporation was an old Hong Kong conglomerate spanning real estate, finance, energy, aggressively expanding in the mainland market. More importantly, the Zhengs and the Lins had history. Rumor was, 20 years ago they'd fought over a Shenzhen land parcel. The Lins won using some unsavory tactics. Since then, they were sworn enemies. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. I dialed Vincent Zheng. Mr. Zheng. Hello. This is Ethan Lin. We met at the tech competition last year. AI construction systems. Ethan, I remember you. Your project was fascinating. What can I do for you? I'd like to discuss a partnership. Partnership? In what area? I heard the Zheng Corporation is bidding on the Shenzhen Bay Land King project. Silence on the line for a few seconds. You're well informed, Vincent said, tone turning cautious. That project is indeed moving forward, though competition is fierce. I know, but what if I told you I could help you cut that project's construction cost by over 15%? A few more seconds of silence. Ethan, this isn't something to discuss over the phone. How about this? Can you come to Shenzhen this Friday? We'll talk in person. Okay, hanging up. I let out a long breath. Sophia poked her head in. What's up? I need to go to Shenzhen. Shenzhen? For what? To meet with the Zheng people. She blinked, then nodded. All right, I'll book your ticket. You're not asking why. You have your reasons. She said, I just need to support you. I walked over and kissed her forehead. Sophia, thank you. Cut it out. She pushed me away, face reddening. Get back to work. Stop being sappy. Friday morning, I took the high-speed train to Shenzhen. Shenzhen was an exhilarating, anxious city. Skyscrapers rose in tiers. Pedestrians rushing. Everyone chasing something. No one wanting to be left behind. Walking the CBD streets. Seeing the glass curtain walls reflect blue sky and white clouds. An indescribable urge rose in me. I wanted a foothold here, too. The Zheng Corporation's headquarters occupied 20 floors of a Futian office tower. The receptionist verified my ID and led me to a small conference room. After about 5 minutes, Vincent Zheng entered. He wore a deep gray custom suit, platinum cufflinks, exuding understated luxury. He shook my hand warmly, gestured for me to sit. Ethan, long time no see. You look well. Thank you. Mr. Zhang, I heard you were the one who got me kicked out of the Lin family. He was blunt. No mockery, more a benevolent probe. Yes, because of a girl. Yes. He smiled, sipping tea. Young people rebelling against the family for love. I've seen that drama on TV plenty. First time in real life. Though, gutsy move. Thank you, Mr. Zhang. Not praise. A statement of fact. He set down the cup, gaze sharpening. All right, to business. You claim you can help us cut Shenzhen Bay's construction costs. How did I open my laptop? Pulled up the latest cloud build version. After months of iteration, performance was up nearly 30% from the competition build. Interface cleaner. I gave him a full demo, walking through data input, model computation, result output, explaining each step clearly. When it ended, Vincent leaned back, hands folded over his abdomen, silent a long time. Is this system patented? Pending. Invention and utility patents both submitted. Valuation. Last round. An institution offered 80 million. I declined. Why? Because I think it's worth more. Vincent studied me, then suddenly laughed. Ethan, interested in joining the Zhang Corporation. 2 million annual salary, plus options. Thank you for the offer, Mr. Zhang, but I'd rather build my own venture. Figured you'd say that. He shook his head, pulling a document from his briefcase. How about this? We invest in your company. No more than 30% equity. In exchange, your system gets priority trial in all our projects. And you help us secure the Shenzhen Bay project. I took the document, skimmed quickly. Terms were generous. Investment, $30 million. In 3 tranches, first $5 million upon signing. Strategic cooperation term, 5 years, during which the Zhang Corporation had priority usage and joint development rights. This agreement was a lifeline. With that money, I could expand the team, upgrade the product, penetrate markets, completely free of dependence on the Lin family's sphere of influence. But I didn't agree immediately. Mr. Zhang, I have one Fujia condition. Name it. I need the Zhang Corporation to help me suppress the Lin Corporation stock price. Vincent's smile froze, then slowly deepened. You want revenge? Not entirely. I just want certain people to know there are consequences for crossing the wrong person. He was silent a moment, then extended his hand. Deal. I grasped it, feeling the warmth and strength in his palm. From that moment, my war with the Lin family officially began. Back in the provincial capital, I dove into intense work. The Zhang Corporation's first tranche, 5 million, hit our account fast. I leased a larger office, hired a dozen new employees, purchased high-performance servers. The team expanded from 3 or 5 to nearly 20. The workspace finally had some startup vitality. Meanwhile, the Zhang Corporation moved on the capital front. Decades-deep capital market roots, connections and resources the Lin family couldn't match. They first floated rumors about acquiring an AI construction tech firm, hinting it might directly compete with the Lin Corporation. The moment the news hit, Lin's stock dropped 5 points. Then, through several affiliates, the Zhangs quietly absorbed Lin shares on the secondary market, creating a panic atmosphere of a short attack. Retail investors dumped en masse. Institutional investors turned gunwang. Within a week, Lin's stock was down nearly 20%. Grandfather was hospitalized from the stress. This news came via a tearful call from my mother. Yuanzhou, your grandfather's in the hospital. Blood pressure spiked to 190. The doctor says another shock could be dangerous. Can you come see him? I held the phone, silent a long time. Mom, I'm not coming back. But, when he threw you out, he didn't think of today. Now that he's in trouble, he wants me to come back. On what grounds? Yuanzhou, he's still your grandfather. He's also the man who humiliated me in front of 300 people. My voice was flat, unsettling even to myself. Mom, tell Dad to take good care of grandfather. As for me, I have my own matters to handle. I hung up, stood at the window, watching the endless traffic below. Early spring wind blew in. Slightly cool. I told myself not to soften. What the Lin family had done to me deserved no forgiveness. Yet images from childhood surfaced unbidden. Grandfather teaching me calligraphy, his large hand guiding mine stroke by stroke. Patience unlike the iron-fisted tycoon. Summer fishing trips. Me crying when I couldn't reel one in. Him stuffing his rod into my hand saying this one's yours. The day I got into Tsinghua. Him drinking an extra half-gene of liquor. Holding my hand saying Yuanzhou is Grandpa's pride. Those images stabbed like knives. I shook my head hard, forcing them down. Ethan Lin, you can't waver. You have more important things to do. Just then, my phone rang, an unknown number. I picked up, a familiar voice. My father, James Lin. Yuanzhou. His voice was hoarse, exhausted. Can you come back? Your grandfather. He wants to see you. If he wants to see me, he can call me himself. He's bedridden, can barely speak. How's he going to call? Then wait till he recovers. Yuanzhou, my father's voice suddenly rose. An intensity I'd never heard. What will it take for you to come back? Are you really going to watch your grandfather die in front of you? He won't die. Charles Lin doesn't go down that easy. Yuanzhou, I want to ask you something. He fell silent. What? 2 years ago, when grandfather threw me out, why didn't you say a single word? Dead silence on the line. I waited 10 seconds. No answer. Forget it. I said, no need to answer. I have things to do. I'm hanging up. I ended the call, tossed the phone on the desk, closed my eyes. The office was quiet. Only the computer fan humming. Outside, the sky gradually darkened. The city's lights coming on one by one. I didn't know if I'd done right, but I knew, once some things start, there's no turning back. That rain came without warning. Late June in the provincial capital. The weather stifling as a steamer. I sat before the floor-to-ceiling windows of the new office. AC on, holding a Shenzhen Bay technical proposal. Unable to focus on a single word. Yesterday, my mother called again. Grandfather's condition had worsened. Hypertension triggered a minor stroke. Left side numb. Speech slurred. Doctor's orders. Absolute rest. No more shocks. Your uncle ran. She whispered, as if afraid of being overheard. Embezzled over 200 million in liquid funds from the company accounts. Fled the country with his mistress. When your grandfather found out, he vomited blood on the spot. I held the phone. Speechless. Michael Lin had fled. That man who stood beside grandfather at my birthday banquet. A smug smile on his lips. Who'd threatened my clients to cut me off. Had actually absconded with funds. The irony. Your father is holding the company together alone now. My mother continued. But the board is pressuring him. Demanding a new chairman election. You know your father's personality. He can't control the room. Mom. I cut in. These matters have nothing to do with me. How can they not? The Lin Corporation is your grandfather's life's work. It's his life's work, not mine. My voice was flat. He should have thought of that when he threw me out. Silence. Then, softly. Yuanzhou, you've changed. I haven't changed. I just refuse to be the Ethan Lin who lets others slaughter him anymore. I hung up, sat in the chair, watching the gray sky outside. The air was heavy. Distant buildings wrapped in a thin haze. Like a gauze curtain. It was going to rain. Sure enough, at 3 p.m. the sky darkened abruptly. Clouds pressing low, nearly grazing rooftops. Lightning split the horizon. Thunder rolling. Rain poured down, pelting the glass. Pedestrians scattered. Soon puddles formed on the road. I got up, went to the pantry for coffee. Stood by the window watching the downpour. My phone buzzed. Joe messaging. Boss, someone's here to see you. He's been standing in the rain a while. Soaked through. I frowned. Who? He says his surname is Lin. James Lin. My hand jerked. Coffee sloshed, burning my wrist. My father. What was he doing here? I walked to the window, peering down. Angle blocked the entrance. I hesitated a few seconds, then replied. Bring him up. He says he won't come up. Waiting downstairs for you. I set down the cup, grabbed an umbrella, and walked out. The elevator descended. My heartbeat inexplicably accelerating. Since being kicked out 2 years ago, I'd only seen my mother secretly a few times. My father had never initiated contact. I'd even wondered if he regarded me as a son at all. Elevator doors opened. I crossed the lobby, pushed through the glass doors. The rain was heavier than I imagined. A waterfall from the sky, exploding into white spray on the ground. The flower beds outside were beaten flat, leaves drooping, and in the rain, a figure knelt upright. My father, James Lin. He wore a dark gray shirt, completely soaked now, fabric clinging to his emaciated frame, hair plastered in clumps on his forehead, rainwater streaming down his cheeks. Impossible to tell rain from tears. Seeing me emerge, his body trembled slightly, lips moving without sound. I stood on the steps, umbrella overhead, looking down at him. Rain dripped from the umbrella's edge, forming a water curtain between us. What are you doing? My voice was cold, cold enough to unsettle even myself. Yuanzhou, he finally rasped, voice nearly inaudible. Come home with me. Home. I couldn't help a laugh. Which home? The Lin family's. The place that threw me out like garbage. Your father, he's dying. What does that have to do with me? Wasn't he majestic when he cast me out? in front of 300 people, grinding my dignity into the dirt. Did he think then that one day he'd beg me? Each word was barbed. I knew they were hurtful, but I couldn't stop. 2 years of grievance, anger, resentment surged up, choking my chest. I had to let it out. James Lynn lowered his head, shoulders shaking violently. I didn't know if he was crying or shivering. Maybe both. I'm sorry, he whispered, barely audible. What? I'm sorry. He lifted his head, face streaked with rain or tears. Yuanzhou, it's Dad who wronged you. Back then, I didn't dare speak for you. I feared your grandfather, feared losing everything. I'm a coward. His voice broke in the rain, each word squeezed from between his teeth. I looked at him kneeling in the storm, a complicated mix of emotions rising. This man, who'd always been submissive in front of me, whom I'd resented, despised, pitted, but never sympathized with. And now, watching him kneel in the downpour, trembling as he apologized, something tender in me was touched, but I didn't show it. What use is saying this now? I said, it's too late. Not too late. Yuanzhou, your grandfather. The reason he drove you away? There was a reason. I paused. What reason? James Lynn opened his mouth, seemed about to speak, then swallowed it back. His eyes flickered, as if in intense internal struggle. Tell me, your grandfather. He discovered you saw something you shouldn't have. My heart sank. What do you mean? Remember, a month before you were thrown out, one night you went to the office to fetch something. Accidentally walked into the finance department's server room. A blurry image flashed in my mind. That night, I had gone to the office for a forgotten file. Passing finance. I'd seen the server room light on, door ajar, shadows moving inside. I hadn't thought much of it. Grabbed the file. Left. That night, what you saw weren't ordinary staff on duty. James Lynn said. It was Michael Lynn leading people to cook the books. Your grandfather later reviewed the surveillance. Found out. He feared Michael would move against you. So his words were a sledgehammer to my chest. I stood frozen, mind blank. So, he drove me away to protect me. James Lynn nodded, tears mixing with rain streaming down. Your grandfather, that man, proud all his life, never willing to explain to anyone. He'd rather you hated him than see you in danger. All these years, he's watched over you in secret. Your first startup project, he pulled strings for you. That client, Mr. Liu, he had people introduce him to you. My legs weakened. I stepped back, leaning against the doorframe. The rain sounded distant. The world seemed to lose its voice in that moment. So that was it. The grandfather I'd hated for 2 years, the old man who publicly humiliated me at my birthday banquet, had been protecting me in this way. And I thought he truly didn't want me. Why didn't you tell me sooner? My voice shook. Your grandfather forbade it. James Lynn wiped his face. He said if you knew the truth, you'd definitely come back to him. Then everything he did would be wasted. Then why send you to tell me now? Because he's dying. James Lynn's voice carried a sob. He fears he'll die without your forgiveness. I closed my eyes. Rain soaked my pant cuffs, the cold touch bringing slight clarity. An image of grandfather on his hospital bed surfaced, withered body, pallid face, cloudy eyes staring at the ceiling. That once dominant business titan, now reduced to his last breath, waiting to see his grandson one final time. Should I forgive him? Or rather, did I have the right not to forgive him? Yuanzhou. James Lynn spoke again, voice pleading. Come back with me. Your grandfather doesn't have much time left. Even if you can't forgive him, at least let him go in peace. I opened my eyes, looking at my father kneeling in the rain. His knees must hurt terribly, cement ground. Torrential rain. Kneeling this long, he probably couldn't even stand. I walked down the steps, held the umbrella over his head. Rain hit my shoulders, cold instantly soaking through my shirt. Get up. He blinked, looking up at me. Get up. I repeated. I'll go back with you. He trembled, trying to rise, but his knees were clearly numb. He slid back down halfway. I reached out, grasped his arm, pulled him up. He was half a head shorter than me, standing there soaked, miserable. Rain dripped from his clothes hem, pooling at his feet. He looked at me, lips quivering, wanting to speak, but unable to form words. I released his arm, turned to walk back. I'll get the car keys. Wait at the entrance. After a few steps, I stopped, didn't turn. Dad. A soft sob from behind. What you just said. I heard it. I paused, then added, thank you for telling me the truth. Then I strode into the office building. Behind me, amid the rain, came the sound of a man's suppressed crying, 20+ years of it that I drove my financed BYD. My soaked father in the passenger seat, heading for the Provincial People's Hospital. The wipers swung wildly across the windshield. The rain showed no sign of easing. Vehicles on the road were scarce. Pedestrians fewer still. The entire city was wrapped in gray mist, like a faded inkwash painting. James Lynn sat beside me, his dampness soaking the seat. He wrapped himself in the coat I'd handed him, shivering nonstop. Want me to turn up the heat? I asked. No, no. He waved quickly. I'm fine. The car lapsed into silence. We hadn't spent time alone in years. The last time we rode together was probably when he drove me to the train station for college. Back then, he drove. I played on my phone. The cabin quiet as a morgue. I'd thought he didn't care about me. Now, maybe he just didn't know how to express it. How's the company now? I broke the silence. James Lynn gave a bitter laugh. A mess. After your uncle fled, all the holes in the accounts were exposed. Banks demanding repayment. Suppliers demanding debt. Several projects forced to halt. The board meets daily, arguing with no resolution. How big is the shortfall? Liquid funds gap. About 600 million. Plus the 200 million your uncle embezzled. Total 800 million. 800 million. To me now, that was an astronomical figure. Cloud Build's valuation had passed 100 million. But that was valuation. Actual liquid cash was just over 10 million. 800 million was 80 times that. What's grandfather's plan? He wants to sell the South City plot to fill the hole. But that plot is the Lynn Corporation's core asset. Selling it is cutting off the life route. The board refuses. Your grandfather won't budge either. Both sides are at a stalemate. I was silent a moment. That plot can't be sold. James Lynn turned to look at me. Why? Because a subway line is about to be approved nearby. My source says it's confirmed. Construction starts next year. By then, that plot's value will triple at minimum. James Lynn's eyes widened. Really? I have friends at the planning bureau. Reliable info. He opened his mouth, seemed about to speak, then closed it. After a while, he said softly, Yuanzhou, you've truly grown up. I didn't reply, focused on driving. The car turned into the hospital parking lot. I found a spot, killed the engine. The rain had eased to a drizzle. I raised the umbrella, walking with James Lynn toward the inpatient department. In the elevator, the smell of disinfectant washed over us. James Lynn pressed the button for the 12th floor. The elevator ascended slowly. He's in room 1208. He said, VIP suite. Decent environment. Does he know I'm coming? No. I didn't tell him. I was afraid if you didn't come, he'd be disappointed. I glanced at him, said nothing. 12th floor. Doors opened. The corridor was quiet. Occasional nurses passing with medication carts. Air heavy with that distinct hospital odor, disinfectant, medicine, and an indescribable desolation. At room 1208, James Lynn stopped. I won't go in. You two talk. I looked at him. You're not coming in. I'll wait out here. He forced a smile, crow's feet lining his eyes. I suddenly noticed he'd truly aged. Far more white at the temples, deeper laugh lines. This man, silent and reticent in my memory, had unconsciously entered the second half of his life. I nodded, pushed open the door. The room was quiet. Only the steady beep of the heart monitor. Curtains were half drawn. Outside light, slanting through the gap, casting a slender strip on the floor. Grandfather lay on the bed, a white blanket covering him, for tube in the back of his hand. His complexion was waxen, cheekbones prominent, eye sockets sunken. Compared to the commanding Charles Lynn of 2 years ago, the old man before me had withered, as if something had drained his vitality. Eyes closed, breathing shallow and even. I walked softly to the bedside, pulled over a chair, sat. He didn't wake. I sat quietly, watching his face, a face I'd once known intimately, able to trace its contours in my dreams. But now, it felt somewhat unfamiliar. Time and illness had left too many marks. I reached out, took his hand, withered, ice cold, skin loose as paper. Grandfather, I called softly. His eyelids twitched, slowly opened. Clouded eyes took a long moment to focus, then recognized me. Then, tears welled, sliding down the corners, soaking into the pillow. Why you on? His voice was slurred, the left side of his face stiff from the stroke. Speech labored. Don't talk. I tightened my grip on his hand. I'm here. He struggled to shake his head, as if determined to say something. He raised his right hand, trembling, pointed to the bedside table drawer. Take. I paused, opened the drawer. Inside was a brown leather envelope, bulging, sealed with wax. On it, for characters, Yuanzhou personal. I took out the envelope, looked to grandfather. What is this? He laboriously tugged the corner of his mouth, as if attempting a smile. You read it, you'll understand. I tore the seal, withdrew a thick stack of documents. On top, a handwritten letter. The handwriting was shaky, clearly written after his illness. I unfolded it. reading word by word. The letter began with 4 words. To my grandson Yuanzhou. My eyes reddened instantly. The content wasn't long, but each word seemed written with all the strength he had left. He wrote that he'd made many mistakes in life, the greatest being his failure to tell me the truth in person. He said he'd been far from a qualified grandfather, but he'd never stopped loving me. His greatest pride wasn't founding the Lin Corporation, but having me as a grandson. At the letter's end, he wrote, in the drawer is a USB drive containing 20 years of the Lin Corporation's accounts. If you're willing, help grandfather clean up this mess. If not, hand these materials to the authorities. The Lin Corporation needs a cleansing. I set down the letter, upended the envelope, and a black USB drive fell into my palm. Small, but heavy in my hand. I looked up at grandfather. He'd closed his eyes, breathing steady, as if a great weight had finally lifted from his heart. I tucked the USB and letter away. Stood. Grandfather. He opened his eyes. I'll clean the Lin Corporation for you. The corners of his mouth lifted in a peaceful smile. I turned, walked out of the room. In the corridor, James Lin leaned against the wall. Seeing me emerge, he straightened immediately. Well, I agreed. He paused, then let out a long breath, eyes reddening again. Thank you, Yuanzhou. Don't thank me, I said. It's not for you. Not for the Lin family. Then for whom? I didn't answer. Outside, the rain had stopped. A beam of sunlight pierced the clouds, illuminating the corridor floor. I walked forward. For the old man lying in that hospital bed. For the father kneeling in the rain to apologize. For the version of myself who, on the night of my 25th birthday, squatted by the roadside, crying like a dog. They all owed me answers. Now, it was my turn to write those answers. 11 p.m. I sat alone in Cloudbuild's office. The computer screen glowing blue. The USB was plugged in, its indicator blinking, urging me to open it. I drew a deep breath, double-clicked the icon. A folder popped open, densely packed with hundreds of Excel files and PDF scans. The earliest dated to 2003, the latest from last month, spanning 20 years, covering the Lin Corporation's journey from inception to its peak. I randomly clicked a folder named 2007 Internal. Inside were that year's raw accounts versus the publicly released financial reports. One glance revealed the problem. Public profit, 80 million. Internal actual profit, 230 million. GAAP, 150 million. Where did that 150 million go? I scrolled down, found a subfolder named Special Expenditures. Opening it, the records made my back turn cold. March 2007. Deputy Director Liu. City Planning Bureau. Cash payment, 2 million. May 2007. Section Chief Zhang. Provincial Land Department. Transfer, 3.5 million. August 2007. Director Li. District Demolition Office. Cash plus property. Equivalent 5 million. Row after row. Column after column. Clearly documenting each bribe's recipient. Title. Amount. Method. Even the signatory. Most signatures were Michael Lin's. I kept scrolling. Found 2003 records. That year, the Lin Corporation had just started. Scale still small. Yet special expenditures were already listed. Amounts modest, but the nature equally vile. Meaning, from day one, these illicit transactions existed. I leaned back in my chair, closed my eyes. My temples throbbed. Grandfather. Oh, grandfather. You asked me to help you wash the Lin Corporation clean. But the blade you gave me is stained with more blood than I imagined. I opened my eyes. Kept reading. As years progressed, accounts grew more complex. Amounts larger. After 2015, annual special expenditure stabilized between 30 million and 50 million. Funds flowed to various departments. Officials at all levels, weaving a massive web of interests. And all these operations were handled by one person. Michael Lin. My uncle. No wonder he could summon wind and rain in the company. No wonder grandfather, knowing he had issues, dared not move against him. Because Michael held leverage over everyone, including grandfather. I kept scrolling, noticed an anomaly. In the 2019 accounts, a special expenditure was marked with the letter Z, amount, 8 million. I checked back a few years. Starting 2016, a Z-marked expenditure appeared annually, increasing each year, from 2 million initially to 8 million now. Unlike other expenditures, the recipient field for this entry was blank. I frowned, examined the details. Payment method, cash, handler, still Michael Lin. No recipient name, no specific purpose noted. This was irrational. Even the most covert bribe had a clear target. Since Michael handled it, he must know who received it. Unless, The recipient was inconvenient to note in the ledger. A thought flashed, my heart racing. I opened a search engine, entered keywords, cross-referenced with the ledger dates and amounts. Minutes later, the search results froze me in my seat. 2016, the year Michael's son Nathan went abroad to study. That year's expenditure, $2 million, precisely covering 1 year's tuition and living expenses at a top U.S. private university. 2017, $3 million. 2018, $5 million. 2019, $8 million. These numbers aligned perfectly with Nathan's overseas spending, luxury cars, apartments, designer goods, frequent international travel. Nathan's social media posts flashed through my mind, matching the ledger numbers exactly. So Z stood for Hang, Nathan's name. No, wait. If it was for Nathan, no need to be so cryptic. Michael funding his son, even through company accounts, could be disguised under other items. Why create such a conspicuous entry? Unless the money wasn't for Nathan, but for Nathan's mother, my aunt, Michael's wife, Selena Zhao. But Selena was a Lin family daughter-in-law. Spending Lin family money was natural. Why this method? Unless a more terrifying speculation formed that I pulled up another file. The Lin Corporation Shareholder Register and Family Member Registry. Selena Zhao, female, born 1970, native of Wenzhou, Zhejiang, married to Michael Lin in 1998. One son Nathan. Seemed unproblematic, but something felt off. I studied her information again, gaze stopping at the native place field. Wenzhou, Zhejiang. Grandfather had once told me Selena was from Hangzhou. Modest family, parents both teachers. I'd marveled then. Uncle marrying a woman of unequal status, and grandfather not objecting, was a miracle in the Lin family. But the document said Wenzhou, not Hangzhou. Had grandfather misremembered, or was the document wrong? I picked up my phone, hesitated, then dialed my mother. It rang many times before she answered, voice thick with sleep. Yuanzhou, so late. What's wrong? Mom, I want to ask you something. Go ahead. Where exactly is Aunt Selena from? She paused. Why ask that? Just tell me. She's from Hangzhou. Your grandfather said so. You sure? Of course. When your uncle brought her home, your grandfather specifically asked about her family. Her parents were both teachers at a Hangzhou high school. Had a younger brother. I was silent a few seconds. What about her ancestral hometown? That. How would I know? Probably also Hangzhou. What are you really asking? Nothing. Mom, get some sleep. I hung up, staring at the words Wenzhou, Zhejiang in the screen. Unease intensifying. A person's ancestral hometown differing from where they grew up wasn't rare. But the issue was, why would grandfather remember incorrectly? With his personality, he should know a daughter-in-law's background inside out. Unless someone deliberately gave him false information. And the only one who could do that was Michael Lin. Why would he hide his wife's true ancestral origin? Unless Selena's identity itself was problematic. I drew a deep breath. Opened another site, National Citizen Identity Information Query System. I had access. Cloud Build was contracted for several smart government projects, including the Population Information Module. I entered Selena's ID number. Clicked search. Seconds later, results appeared. Selena Zhao. ID 33030219700812812 *******. Registered residence. Luqing District. Wenzhou, Zhejiang. Indeed Wenzhou. Her household register showed she moved her residency from Wenzhou to the provincial capital in June 1998, marrying Michael Lin in August that same year, meaning she relocated only 2 months before marriage. Not inherently suspicious, but combined with grandfather's claim she was from Hangzhou, it was clearly Michael misleading everyone. Why? I dug deeper, pulling up Selena's associated records during her Wenzhou period. When the page loaded, a name made my blood freeze. Selena Zhao, 1995 to 1998, cohabited with a man named Henry Zheng. Gave birth to a daughter in 1997 named Zheng Xiaoyu. Henry Zheng, I knew that name. Henry Zheng, only son of Zheng Hongxing, founder of the Hong Kong Zheng Corporation, currently vice chairman of the Zheng Group Board. Vincent Zheng's biological older brother. My partner. The Zheng Corporation had this connection to my aunt. My mind raced, piecing fragments together. Selena and Henry Zheng had a relationship, had a daughter. Later she married Michael Lin. Henry Zheng was a Zheng family member. The Zhengs and Lins were sworn enemies. What had happened in between? I kept digging. Found Zheng Xiaoyu's record. Child born 1997. Died 2000 of congenital heart disease. Age 3. But suspiciously, the death certificate's cause field said congenital heart disease, while the attending physician's signature was smeared, as if deliberately obscured. And the year after Zhang Xiaoyu's death, Michael and Selena had Nathan. The timeline was too convenient. Impossible not to suspect. I checked Henry Zhang's profile, the Zhang family's second young master. After Selena married Michael in 1998, left the mainland, settled abroad long-term. Rumors said he suffered a devastating blow in his personal love life. Never recovered. Never participated in Zhang Group operations again. A man, heartbroken after his girlfriend marries another. Going into exile, the story sounded plausible. But what if that deceased daughter hadn't died? What if that daughter was adopted by Michael Lin? What if Nathan wasn't Michael's biological son, but Henry Zhang's? My back was soaked in cold sweat. I shut the computer, stood, walked to the window, pushed it open. Night air rushed in, carrying the scent of damp earth, but couldn't dispel the chill in my chest. If my speculation was true, this was horrifying. Michael Lin hadn't just been embezzling Lin family assets. He'd used an elaborately woven lie to raise an enemy's son within the Lin family as leverage for the inheritance. And grandfather had been kept in the dark, believing Nathan was his biological grandson. Lin bloodline. But Nathan's blood came from the Lin family's greatest enemy. I picked up my phone, scrolled to Vincent Zhang's number, finger hovered over the dial button, hesitated long. No, not the time. This information was too sensitive. Without conclusive evidence, I couldn't act rashly. What if my speculation was wrong? Or what if Vincent himself was involved? I'd be passive. I needed more evidence. I sat back at the computer, opened the remaining files on the USB. Beyond accounts, there were some audio files and photos. I clicked one audio file. Sound was noisy, but two voices distinguishable. When's the payment for this shipment arriving? Next week, once the bank loan clears. Can't wait too long. The supplier's pressing. I know. Don't worry. I've handled the old man. He thinks I'm just doing normal building materials procurement. Exactly. Good. By the way, that project last time, how much did you give the planning bureau people? 3 million. Plus an apartment. Generous enough. Can't catch a wolf without sacrificing a kid. If we secure that land, this amount is nothing. The dialogue ended there. I recognized the first voice, Michael Lin. The second was unfamiliar, carrying a certain roughness, not sounding like a proper businessman. I clicked another audio file. This time it was Michael Lin and a woman. You sure he won't find out? Relax. The old man's mind is all on his precious grandson now. No time to bother with this. But what if? No what ifs. Even if he finds out, what can he do? Those books he's holding are enough to send him to prison. He won't touch me. You're too confident. Not confident. He's too stupid. Sharp all his life, only to be played by his own son in the end. Hilarious, isn't it? The woman didn't reply. Only a soft sigh. I recognized her voice. Selena. I closed the audio, rubbed my temples. Information overload. I needed time to digest. But one thing was clear. Michael Lin was far more dangerous than I'd imagined. He hadn't simply absconded with funds. It was premeditated. He held grandfather's leverage, controlled the Lin Corporation's lifeblood. He fled not from fear, but because the layout was complete. All that remained was waiting to reel in the net. And I, inexplicably dragged into this murky water, I picked up my phone. Checked the time. 2:17 a.m. outside. All was silent. Only the occasional distant car horn. I suddenly remembered grandfather on his hospital bed. Remembered his words. The Lin Corporation needs a cleansing. The washing he referred to probably wasn't just cleaning accounts. He wanted me to purge the house. And the first person to purge was his biological son, Michael Lin. No, maybe not biological. A worse thought flashed. What if Michael Lin wasn't grandfather's biological son either? Once born, it wouldn't leave. I reopened the USB. Found a yellowed scanned document. A paternity test report. Client, Charles Lin. Subjects, James Lin and Michael Lin. Date, 1995. Conclusion. Probability James Lin is Charles Lin's biological son. 99.99%. Probability Michael Lin is Charles Lin's biological son. 0%. I stared at that 0%, feeling the world spin. Michael Lin wasn't grandfather's biological son. He wasn't Lin family at all. Then who was he? I scrolled down. Found another document, an adoption record. Record showed, 1972, Charles Lin and wife adopted a male infant from the Provincial Capital Welfare Institute. Named him Michael Lin. Adoption procedures complete. Legal and compliant. But strangely, this record was buried deepest in the USB. File name specially processed. If I hadn't inspected each file carefully, it would never have been found. Why hide Michael's origins? To prevent him from knowing he was adopted, thus affecting family harmony. Or because Michael's true identity had other complications that I suddenly recall the detail. As a child, I'd asked Grandma why Uncle didn't resemble grandfather at all. Grandma's expression had been odd. She patted my head, said, "Children shouldn't talk nonsense." I hadn't minded then. Now, it was clearly guilt. I shut the computer, leaned back in the chair, staring at the ceiling in a daze. Outside, the sky was showing the first hint of dawn. Unconsciously, I'd sat before the computer the whole night. But this night's harvest was enough to overturn the Lin family's very foundations. I picked up my phone, dialed a number. After a few rings, a lazy voice answered. "Hello, who is this? Middle of the night." "Mr. Zhang, it's me, Ethan Lin." Vincent's voice sobered instantly. "Ethan, what's wrong? I need you to check someone for me." "Who?" "Michael Lin." A few seconds of silence. "Isn't he your uncle?" "Why check him?" "Because he might not be who you think." "What do you mean?" "I suspect he's connected to the Zhang family." Vincent's breathing noticeably quickened. "How do you know this?" "I can't tell you too much yet, but I need you to verify. Was your brother Henry Zhang in Wenzhou 20 years ago?" Another pause. Then Vincent, in a tone I'd never heard. "Serious? How do you know about that?" "So it's true. Not convenient to discuss on the phone." Vincent lowered his voice. "Come to Shenzhen tomorrow. We'll talk in person." "Okay." I hung up, stood, walked to the window. Dawnlight faint. The city's outline visible through thin mist. A new day had begun, and a greater storm was brewing. A week later, I stood before the Lin Corporation headquarters, looking up at the 36-story glass curtain wall building. Morning sunlight struck the facade, reflecting a blinding glare. Atop, the gilded characters Lin Corporation gleamed. I'd seen this building since childhood, each pass feeling its height insurmountable. But standing here now, it felt like a senescent elder, glorious exterior. Interior already rotten. I wore a deep gray custom suit, specially prepared for this new identity. Clean tailoring, sharp lines, cuff buttons simple silver. No logo, understated but not cheap. On my wrist, a Longines watch Sophia had given me. Not an expensive model, but bought with 3 months of her first salary. She'd said, "You'll be meeting important people. Wear a good watch. Can't lose on presents." I glanced at the dial. 9:45 a.m. 15 minutes until the board meeting. "Mr. Lin." "Ready." Assistant Joe, beside me, asked. He also wore a suit today, carrying a briefcase with USB backups and printed evidence. I didn't answer, just walked toward the main entrance. The revolving door turned slowly. The moment I stepped into the lobby, the receptionist looked up, her professional smile shifting to obvious shock. She clearly recognized me, the abandoned son, cast out 2 years ago, now appearing here in a tailored suit. Anyone would be startled. Mr. Lin," she stammered. "Do you have an appointment?" "Yes. 9 o'clock board meeting. I'm here to attend. But your name isn't on the board list." "It is now." I didn't explain further. Walked straight to the elevators. Joe followed closely, pressed the button for the 18th floor. Elevator doors closed slowly. The receptionist figure disappearing in the gap. Through the mirrored stainless steel, I saw my own reflection. Calm expression, determined eyes, like a blade about to leave its sheath. The elevator ascended, floor numbers jumping. My heartbeat matched that rhythm, but my face showed no emotion. I knew, today's battle, I couldn't lose, couldn't afford to. Ding. 18th floor. Doors opened. A corridor carpeted in deep red stretched ahead. At the end, a heavy wooden door with a brass plaque. Boardroom. I walked to the door, drew a deep breath, pushed it open. The boardroom already seated a dozen people around an oval mahogany table. Some were familiar faces, old ministers who'd fought alongside grandfather, some distant relatives I'd seen at family gatherings, a few professional managers brought in recent years. Seeing me enter, reactions varied. Some frowned, some sneered, some whispered, some drank tea impassively. The head seat was empty, grandfather's place. To the right of the head seat, an unexpected person sat. Nathan Lin, my cousin, Michael's son. He wore a bright blue suit, tie loosely knotted, legs crossed, reclining in the chair, toying with a pen. Seeing me, he raised an eyebrow, mouth curving in an ambiguous smirk. Well, if it isn't my dear brother who was kicked out of the family. What brings you here?" "Here to clean the floors." A few directors let out soft laughs. I ignored him, walked straight to the head seat. pulled out the chair, and sat. The room's atmosphere instantly froze. Ethan Lin, a white-haired senior director, shot up, pointing at me. Who do you think you are? That's Chairman Lin's seat. What qualification do you have to sit there? Chairman Lin has authorized me to exercise the chairman's authority on his behalf. I withdrew a document from my suit's inner pocket, placed it on the table. Here is the authorization letter, with his handwritten signature, fingerprint, and notary seal. If anyone doubts, verification can be done on the spot. I slid the document forward. It traveled a short distance, stopping before the old director. He paused, picked it up, examined carefully. His expression grew increasingly ugly. How is this possible? How is it impossible? I leaned back, gaze sweeping everyone. During Chairman Lin's critical illness, the Lin Corporation lacks leadership. Someone capable must preside. And I happen to have that capability. What capability do you have? Nathan threw his pen onto the table, the crisp sound ringing out. You're just a waste product swept out by the Lin family, relying on a broken company outside, fooling a few suckers into investing. And you think you're somebody. Brother, stop messing around. Go home. This isn't a place for you. Nathan, I looked into his eyes, word by word. I'm not here to quarrel with you. Then what are you here for? To take over the Lin Corporation. The moment the words landed, the boardroom exploded. Ridiculous. On what grounds? The Lin Corporation is a listed company, not a playground. I object. Strongly oppose. Amidst the uproar, Nathan laughed loudest. Ha ha. Take over the Lin Corporation. Brother, did you not sleep well? Still dreaming this nonsense. I wasn't angry, didn't rebut. I just watched them quietly until the noise gradually subsided, then spoke slowly. Gentlemen, before you decide, I'd like to show you something. I nodded to Joe. He opened the briefcase, took out a tablet, connected it to the large conference room screen. The first image appeared, a comparison chart of the Lin Corporation's financial reports over the past 3 years. Left, the public version. Right, the internal version from the USB. Please look. I stood, walked to the screen, pointing at the discrepancy. Public filings show the Lin Corporation profitable 3 years running. Net profit exceeding $500 million total. But the internal accounts show an actual loss exceeding $200 million over those 3 years. The room quieted. The gap approaches $700 million. Where did this $700 million go? I switched to the next image, a dense table of special expenditure details. These are disbursements recorded under business entertainment, consulting fees, technical service fees, and similar labels over the past decade. Total exceeds $300 million. Recipients are mostly shell companies or deregistered individual businesses. And the approver for all these expenditures, one name. I paused, gaze landing on Nathan. Michael Lin. Nathan's expression shifted slightly. Bullshit. He slammed the table. Standing. My father dedicated decades to the company. On what basis do you slander him? Slander. I smiled. Switched to the next image. Then what about these? The screen displayed Michael Lin's overseas bank account records. Evidence of him transferring company funds to private offshore accounts using his position. Amounts ranged from hundreds of thousands to millions, spanning 5 years. Total exceeding $120 million. Account locations: Switzerland, Singapore, Cayman Islands. Account holders, all Michael Lin himself. Transfer records, bank statements, fund flows, clear as day. I looked at Nathan, voice flat. Still think I'm slandering him. Nathan's face flushed crimson, lips trembling, speechless. The boardroom was dead silent. Those who'd opposed me moments ago now looked ashen. You looked at me. I looked at you. No one daring to speak. Because they all knew, once substantiated, Michael Lin faced criminal charges. And the entire Lin Corporation would be dragged into a massive scandal that I've already submitted this evidence to the public security authorities. I said, simultaneously, I've filed reports with the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Tax Bureau. Michael Lin is suspected of Drew Qinjian, misappropriating funds, bribery, and a series of illegal and criminal acts. I believe relevant departments will intervene in the investigation shortly. You're insane. A director cried out. You're driving the Lin Corporation to its death. No. I looked at him, gazed like a torch. I'm pulling the Lin Corporation out of the mire. I scanned the room, raising my voice a fraction. Gentlemen, the Lin Corporation's decline wasn't built in a day. Long-term internal corruption, management chaos, nepotism, they've hollowed out this company. Without a thorough cleansing, the Lin Corporation has only one path. Death. Then you can't be the one to cleanse it. Another director shouted, pounding the table. Who do you think you are? A 26-year-old kid. What do you know about corporate management? I don't know corporate management. I laughed. Then may I ask, in the past 3 years, has anyone here achieved positive profit growth for the company? No answer. Has anyone successfully opened a new market? Silence. Has anyone brought even one core technological breakthrough to the company? The room was quiet enough to hear breathing. None. I said, you only know how to sit in this office, drawing high salaries and dividends, enjoying the empire grandfather built, never considering how to defend it, grow it. My tone hardened. Whereas I, Ethan Lin, in the 2 years since being swept out by the Lin family, built a tech company from scratch, valuation over 100 million, secured 3 provincial benchmark projects, and reached strategic cooperation with Hong Kong's Zheng Corporation. I don't need anyone to teach me corporate management, because I've proven with action that I'm more qualified than anyone here to sit in this seat. The statement landed with force. The boardroom fell silent again. After a long while, the white-haired old director sighed, sinking back into his chair. Forget it. Forget it. A descendant of the old Lin family is still a Lin. After all, his words acted as a signal, marking the dust settling of this power transition. But just then, Nathan suddenly stood. Wait. He walked to the conference table, planted both hands on it, looking down at me. His eyes held a glint I couldn't quite decipher. Not anger, not fear, a near-frenzied excitement. Brother, you're right. My father indeed did many shady things. But he paused, mouth curving in a bizarre arc. Did you think you could sit in that seat spotless? My heart skipped. What do you mean? I mean, Nathan pulled a phone from his pocket, pressed play. You should listen to this. From the phone, a voice played. My voice. I need you to help me suppress the Lin Corporation stock price. The condition is we cooperate to secure the Shenzhen Bay project. That was my conversation with Vincent Zheng in Shenzhen months ago. I didn't know how Nathan obtained this recording, but now it played clearly in the boardroom, each word a knife slicing my nerves. When it ended, the boardroom exploded again. Outrageous. So you colluded with the Zhengs. This is corporate espionage. You have zero qualification to take over the Lin Corporation. Nathan looked at me smugly. Brother, didn't expect that, did you? Thought you had it all locked up. But your biggest handle has been in my hand all along. I looked at him, silent a few seconds. Then I laughed. Nathan, you think this recording can topple me? Can't it? It cannot, I said, shaking my head, because I already told grandfather about this. Nathan's smile froze. What? Grandfather knows about my cooperation with the Zhengs. Moreover, he knows the reason I cooperated with the Zhengs was to borrow their strength to expose Michael Lin's foxtail. I looked at him, word by word. In other words, my cooperation with the Zhengs was tacitly approved by grandfather. You're lying. Do I need to lie? I pulled out my phone, cued an audio clip. This is grandfather authorizing me to do so. 2 months ago. Want to listen? Nathan's expression changed completely. He stared at me, eyes filled with disbelief. Impossible, impossible. How could grandfather? Because he knew Michael Lin had issues long ago. I said, he was just waiting for the right opportunity to root out this parasite. And I am the blade he chose. I put away the phone, adjusted my suit collar, looking at Nathan. Nathan, your father has already fled. The only thing you can do now is cooperate with the investigation. Seek leniency. If you insist on fighting me, I paused, gaze turning icy. I don't mind taking you down with him. Nathan staggered back a step, bumped into the chair. A dull thud. His face was bloodless, lips trembling, unable to utter a word. In the boardroom, no one spoke now. I scanned the room. At those once Galgal faces, now all heads bowed like frost-struck eggplants. This board meeting is adjourned. I said, meeting dismissed. I turned and walked out of the boardroom. Joe hurried after me. In the corridor, sunlight streamed through the French windows, casting a golden patch on the floor. I let out a long breath. The first battle, won. But I knew this was only the beginning. A greater storm awaited. 3 days after the board meeting, I moved into grandfather's office. Moving in was merely transferring personal items from Cloud Build. A laptop, a few architecture books, a thermos, and a photo of Sophia. She stood at the entrance of our newly rented office, flashing a V sign, laughing carefree. I placed the photo on the desk, looking at her smiling face, mood lifting considerably. These 2 days, I'd barely slept. The Lin Corporation's mess was bigger than imagined. Accounts chaotic, projects stalled, morale scattered. I convened department head meetings, assessed situation, formulated rectification plans. Daily grind from 8 a.m. to 1 or 2 a.m. Meals eaten at the desk. Sophia delivered food daily, sometimes dumplings, sometimes stir-fry, packed in a thermal container, steaming hot. She didn't disturb me, just left it on the coffee table with a reminder to eat, then quietly left. I knew she worried, but she never said it, only supported me silently. To have such a wife. What more could a husband ask for? I was reviewing a project report when the office door knocked. Enter. Door opened. The visitor was Lily Lynn, my biological younger sister, 3 years my junior, 25 this year, just returned from studying in the UK. She wore a beige dress, long hair draped over shoulders, light makeup, looking gentle and demure. She carried a cup of coffee, carefully walked to my desk, set it down. Brother, have some coffee. Don't tire yourself out. I looked up, smiling at her. Thanks. She smiled back, but there was a trace of meaning I couldn't quite read. Brother, can I talk to you? Of course. Have a seat. She sat on the sofa opposite, hands clasped on her knees, appearing somewhat restrained. I put down the pen, leaned back, waiting for her to speak. Brother, what do you think of me? The question came unexpectedly. I paused. Pretty good. Smart. Sensible. Capable. Why? Then do you trust me? You're my sister. Of course I trust you. She lowered her head, silent a while, then raised it, eyes slightly red. Brother, I'm sorry. My heart sank. Sorry for what? She didn't answer. Instead, pulled a sheet of paper from her bag, placed it on the desk, slid it toward me. I looked down. A bank transfer record. Recipient. An offshore registered company. Sender. My sister Lily Lynn. Amount. 5 million. Date. 3 days ago. The day of the board meeting. What is this? My voice cooled. I copied your computer's core technical data. Sold it to someone. My mind rang, as if punched hard. What did you say? Brother, I'm sorry. Tears fell. I didn't mean to. I just what? I stood abruptly, the chair sliding back, slamming the wall with a bang. Do you know how much those technical materials are worth? 2 years of my life's work. The core asset of cloud build. I know. She covered her face, crying. But I had no choice. What do you mean no choice? Who forced you? She lifted her tear-blurred face, lips trembling out 3 words. Michael Lynn. I froze. Didn't he already flee? He hasn't fled far. Lily wiped her tears, voice choked. He's hiding in Macau, directing me via phone. He said if I didn't get your technical data for him, he'd reveal my true origins. Your origins? She nodded, tears bursting forth again. Brother, I'm not your biological sister. The sentence was a thunderclap in my mind. What did you say? I'm Michael Lynn's biological daughter. I stood frozen, feeling the world spin. Lily was Michael's daughter. That uncle who'd absconded with funds. That man grandfather discovered wasn't his biological son. His daughter had been living in the Lynn family as my biological sister all along. What was going on? My voice was hoarse, unrecognizable. Lily wiped her tears, drew a deep breath, began recounting. 23 years ago. My mother, Selena, before marrying Michael, had a relationship with another man, became pregnant. That man later left her. She gave birth alone, couldn't support the child, so sent the baby to the Welfare Institute. That baby was you. She nodded. Michael knew this. After he and Selena married, they always wanted a child of their own. But Selena's body was injured giving birth to me, making it difficult to conceive again. So Michael went to the Welfare Institute, brought me back, claiming to the outside that I was his and my mother's, biological child. Did my mother know about this? Lily bit her lip. She knew. My heart clenched as if squeezed hard. She knew. She always knew you weren't her biological daughter. Yes. Michael forced her. He said if she didn't comply, he'd expose certain matters from back then, bringing disgrace to the entire Lynn family. What matters? Lily shook her head. I don't know. He didn't say. He only said he held leverage. Your mother wouldn't dare disobey. I sank into the chair, feeling all strength drained. Mother, gentle, virtuous, unambitious in my memory, had been carrying this secret for over 20 years. Then why did you help him? I looked at Lily, voice repressed with anger. Even if you're not my mother's biological child, we've lived together all these years. Was I not good to you? Were Mom and Dad not good to you? Why betray me? Because I didn't know what to do. She cried out. Michael said if I didn't help him, he'd make the truth public, make me unable to stay in this family. I didn't want to lose this home. Brother, I truly didn't want to. So you could betray me. I didn't want to sell the data to outsiders. She lowered her head, voice diminishing. Michael said he only wanted to use the data to negotiate with the Zhangs. Wouldn't really harm you. I believed him. You believed him. I couldn't help a bitter laugh. The sound was full of irony. Lily, you're an adult. You should know what trade secret leakage means. If these materials fall into competitors' hands, Cloud Build is finished. My 2 years of effort, wasted. I'm sorry, brother. Truly sorry. She cried uncontrollably. I know I was wrong. I'm willing to bear the consequences. If you want to call the police, go ahead. I looked at her crying face. Emotions a tangled mess, anger, disappointment, heartache, helplessness, all knotted in my chest. Nowhere to vent. I closed my eyes, forced myself to calm with several deep breaths. Who did you sell the data to? A Shenzhen company. Called Prosperity Tech. Prosperity Tech. I'd heard the name. A subsidiary under the Zheng Corporation, focused on smart construction. If the data fell into the Zheng's hands, no, the Zhengs were our partners. They had no reason to steal my technology at this juncture. Unless Michael Lin and the Zhengs were also colluding. You're sure it was Prosperity Tech? Yes. Michael gave me a contact. Had me send the data directly. What was the contact's name? Surname Zheng. Name Vincent Zheng. My hand jerked violently. Vincent Zheng. That Vincent Zheng, who called me brother, swore to partner with me, had been stabbing me in the back all along. Brother. Lily looked at me timidly. Will you forgive me? I looked at her, silent a long time. Go back first. I said, I need to calm down. Brother, go back. She opened her mouth, ultimately said nothing, stood, head lowered, and walked out of the office. The moment the door closed, I grabbed the cup from the desk and hurled it to the ground. Ceramic shattered, echoing in the empty office. I braced both hands on the desk, gasping for breath. Betrayal. My most trusted sister betrayed me. My most relied upon partner also stabbed me in the back. In this world, who could still be trusted? I pulled out my phone, scrolled to Vincent Zheng's number. Finger hovered over the dial button, but didn't press. No, now is not the time to confront him. I needed evidence. I needed to clarify what role Vincent played in this. Was he used by Michael Lin? Or had he conspired with Michael from the start? If the latter, the enemy I faced was far stronger than I'd imagined. I put down the phone, walked to the window, looked out at the city. The sunset dyed the horizon blood red. The city's night view was beautiful, but to me now, it resembled a battlefield about to be stained with blood. I picked up the phone, dialed Sophia. Hello, Yuanzhou. What's wrong? Sophia, I need you to do something for me. Say it. From now on, all Cloud Build's core data, encrypt storage, physical isolation, any external access requests, reject outright. Silence on the line for a few seconds. What happened? Lily leaked our technical data. What? I'll explain specifics later. Go to the office now. Back up all server data. Then disconnect the external network. Okay, I'll go immediately. After hanging up, I dialed another number. Hello, Attorney Chun. This is Ethan Lin. I need you to draft a legal document regarding pursuit of liability for trade secret leakage. After arranging everything, I leaned back in the chair, closed my eyes. Images flashed, Lily's crying face, Vincent's hypocritical smile, grandfather lying on his hospital bed. This war was far crueler than I'd imagined, but I had no retreat. Since they wanted to play, I'd play to the end. 3 months later, Provincial Intermediate People's Court, trial scheduled for 9:00 a.m. I arrived half an hour early. Already a crowd of media gathered at the courthouse entrance. Long lenses aimed at the gate. Several cameramen jostled for advantageous positions. Seeing my car stop, the group swarmed. Flashbulbs popped incessantly. Mr. Lin, what's your expectation for today's trial? Michael Lin is your biological uncle. Do you feel conflicted suing him? Heard the Lin Corporation has split into 2 factions internally. Is that true? I answered none of the questions. Entered the courthouse under escort by Zhou and 2 bodyguards. Passing through security, registration, into the courtroom. The courtroom wasn't large. The public gallery held 30 or 40 people. I spotted several familiar faces, some Lin Corporation directors, some distant relatives, a few who looked like reporters. Mother sat in the second row by the side, wearing a dark coat, face pale, eyes swollen. Seeing me enter, her lips moved, as if wanting to say something, but ultimately didn't. Father sat beside her, holding her hand, expression grave. I took my seat at the plaintiff's table, organizing the materials before me. The defense table was empty. Michael Lin hadn't been brought in yet. A few minutes later, a side door opened. 2 bailiffs escorted a man in an orange detention center vest inside. Michael Lin, 3 months absent. He'd lost significant weight. Deep wrinkles marked his once well-maintained face. Half his hair was white. His eyes no longer held the arrogant, domineering air. head lowered, footsteps heavy. He walked to the defense stand, stood, his gaze never lifted. The judge struck the gavel. Order. Court is now in session. The trial procedure advanced step by step. The prosecutor read the indictment, listing multiple charges against Michael Lin, Zhu Qinjian, misappropriating funds, bribery, tax evasion, total amount involved exceeding $3 billion. Each charge had supporting evidence, bank records, transfer receipts, witness testimonies, complete. Michael's defense attorney attempted to exonerate him, but before ironclad evidence, all arguments appeared pale and weak. Defendant Michael Lin, regarding the aforementioned accusations, do you have anything to say? The judge asked. Michael Lin was silent a long time, then slowly raised his head. His gaze crossed the courtroom, landing on me. That look I'd never seen before, not anger, not hatred, but a near mad calm. I have something to say. His voice was raspy. Low. Speak, the judge said. He drew a deep breath, then laughed. The laughter echoed eerily in the quiet courtroom, stunning everyone. Ethan Lin, you think you've won. He looked at me, mouth curling in a bizarre smile. You think by sending me to prison, you become the Lin family's master. I said nothing, watching him quietly. Do you know why your mother never stopped me? Do you know why your father said not a word when you were kicked out? His voice abruptly rose, carrying a hysterical madness. Because they all know, you're not Lin family blood at all. The courtroom erupted. The public gallery burst into commotion. Gasps. Hushed discussions. The judge repeatedly struck the gavel. Order. Order. Mother shot to her feet, face paper white. Michael Lin, you're talking nonsense. Am I talking nonsense? Michael laughed wildly. Then why don't you tell everyone, before she married James Lin, your womb already carried another man's seed? Enough. Father also stood, voice trembling. Your Honor, I request you stop the defendant's baseless slander. Baseless? A DNA test will make it clear. Michael sneered. Ethan Lin, do you dare? All eyes turned to me. I felt my heart pounding fiercely in my chest, blood rushing in my vessels, a buzz in my ears. My hands clenched into fists, nails biting into flesh. Pain kept me anchored in the last shred of clarity. I looked at Mother. Her face was utterly bloodless, lips trembling, tears streaming silently down. She didn't look at me, just stared at Michael Lin, eyes filled with fear and despair. That look already said everything. Your Honor, I heard my own voice, calm to the point of being alien, even to myself. I request an adjournment to conduct DNA identification. Yuan Zhou, Mother cried out. I didn't look at her, gaze fixed on the judge. The judge pondered a moment, then nodded. Given the defendant's raised involves key facts of this case, this court approves the adjournment. A date will be set for DNA testing. Court adjourned. The gavel fell. It was over. No, it was only beginning. Walking out of the courthouse, media flashbulbs were even more frenzied than upon arrival. Mr. Lin, is what Michael Lin said true? Do you intend to proceed with DNA testing? If your lineage is indeed questionable, will you renounce the Lin Corporation inheritance? I said nothing, ducked into the car under bodyguard escort. The moment the door closed, through the window I saw Mother. She was assisted out of the courthouse by Father, her entire being seeming to have lost its soul, stooped, shuffling. She raised her head, glanced toward my car. Through the glass, I couldn't see her expression clearly, but I could see the tears in her eyes. I didn't get out. Drive, I told the driver. The car pulled away slowly. In the rearview mirror, Mother's figure grew smaller, eventually vanishing into the sea of people. The DNA test results came out 3 days later. Efficiency absurdly high. Clearly someone had pulled strings. When I received that report, I locked myself in the office, staring at the conclusion for a full half hour. Identification conclusion. DNA samples of Ethan Lin and James Lin do not conform to a biological father-son relationship. A simple line, like a sharp blade severing the last thread of blood ties between me and the Lin family. I was not a Lin descendant. The blood flowing in my veins had no connection to that surname. I set down the report, picked up my phone, dialed Mother's number. It rang many times before she answered. The line was quiet, only her light breathing. Mom. Yes, I have the report. Silence. You're not James Lin's son. Her voice was soft, as if afraid of being overheard. Your biological father is someone I'm unwilling to mention. Who is he? Another long silence. You know him. Mother finally spoke, voice carrying a deep weariness. His surname is Zheng. My brain felt struck by lightning. Surname Zheng. Vincent Zheng. Henry Zheng. The Zheng Corporation. Henry Zheng. My voice trembled. Yes, the whole world went silent in that moment. All fragments, in that instant, assembled into a complete picture. Selena and Henry Zheng had a relationship. Had Lily, and my mother, before marrying James Lin, also had entanglement with Henry Zheng, giving birth to me. Henry Zheng, this man who never appeared in my life, was my biological father. And Michael Lin, the man I'd personally sent to prison, knew this secret because he'd been investigating the Zheng family all along, seeking leverage against them. He discovered Selena and Henry's relationship, followed the Shensuo, dug out my mother's past with Henry. That's why he could be so brazen. Why he could still laugh when arrested. Because he held the ultimate trump card. My lineage. Why didn't you tell me sooner? My voice was hoarse, unrecognizable. I didn't dare. Mother cried on the other end. I feared you'd hate me if you knew. Feared you'd leave me. Yuanzhou, I'm sorry. Mom is sorry. I closed my eyes, tears finally bursting forth. Mom, I don't hate you. Really, I mean it. I had no right to hate her. Everyone had their difficulties, secrets they wanted to protect. She concealed my origins not for herself, but to protect me. In that complicated extended family, a child of unclear descent was destined not to be accepted. Then, will you still acknowledge me as your mother? You'll always be my mother. I said, whether you birth me or not. You're my mother. The line transmitted suppressed sobbing. I hung up, stood at the window, looking out at the city. The sky was gray, as if about to rain. I suddenly remembered something. Vincent Zheng, he was my half-uncle. Did he know about this? Did he partner with me because he favored my project? Or because he knew I was his brother's son? I picked up my phone, scrolled to Vincent's number, hesitated long, then finally pressed dial. It rang twice before connecting. Yuanzhou. His voice was as warm as ever. I knew you'd call. When did you know? From the very beginning. I tightened my grip on the phone. So, you cooperated with me not because of my project, but because of my lineage. Both. He sighed. Your project truly is excellent. That's the truth. But simultaneously, I also wanted to help you. After all, you're my elder brother's son. Then why didn't you tell me sooner? Because this isn't something suitable to discuss over the phone. His tone turned serious. Yuanzhou, I know your heart is chaotic now, but listen to me. Regardless of whose son you are already the you of today. Your achievements, your abilities, your career, they're all earned by yourself. They have no relation to your origins. I was silent a long time. I want to meet him. Who? Henry Zheng. Silence on the line for a few seconds. All right, I'll arrange it. 3 days later, I flew to Hong Kong. Henry Zheng lived in a hillside villa, facing the sea, surroundings tranquil. The housekeeper led me into the living room. I saw a white-haired man sitting in a wheelchair, facing the French windows, gazing at the distant sea. He turned his head, looked at me, a face bearing 5 or 6 parts resemblance to mine. You've come. His voice was soft, as if afraid to disturb something. I sat opposite him, studying this man who should have been my father. He looked very aged, far older than his actual years. Sunken eye sockets, prominent cheekbones, his whole being exuding a withered aura. Did you know of my existence? I asked. Yes. He nodded. I always knew. Then why did you never look for me? He was silent a long time, then slowly spoke. Because I had no right. What do you mean? Back then, your mother and I, it was a mistake. His gaze drifted to the distance, as if recalling something distant. She had her family. I had my responsibilities. We shouldn't have started that relationship. So when she said she was pregnant, I chose to escape. You just walked away. I'm a coward. He gave a bitter smile. I gave her a sum of money, told her to abort the child. She didn't. Instead, she chose to marry your current father, gave birth to you. I clenched my fists. Did you know the life she had after marrying into the Lin family? I knew. His voice carried a tremor. I've always had people secretly watch over her. Watch over you. I knew you didn't have an easy time in the Lin family. Knew you were kicked out. Knew you built Cloud Build from scratch. Then why didn't you help me? Because you shouldn't need my help. He looked into my eyes, an emotion I couldn't decipher in his gaze. You are Ethan Lin. You walked to today relying on your own capabilities. If I intervened, it would only complicate your life's trajectory. I was silent. He was right. If he'd appeared during my growth, my life path might have been completely different. Perhaps I'd have become a rich second generation relying on my father, not the Ethan Lin who fought his own battles. Then why are you willing to see me now? Because you wanted to see me, he said. Also because I don't have much time left. I paused. What do you mean? He lifted the blanket covering his legs, revealing a pair of withered limbs. Muscle atrophy severe, skin presenting an unhealthy grayish white. ALS, he said. Diagnosed 3 years ago. Now it's spread throughout my body. The doctor says at most 6 more months. I looked at those nearly paralyzed legs. An indescribable emotion welling up. This man, my biological father, at the final stage of his life, chose to meet me. Do you hate me? He asked. I looked at him, silent a long time. I don't know. He smiled, the smile carrying relief. Also regret. It's fine. You have the right to hate me. I only hope that in the remaining time, I can make some amends. How do you want to make amends? I want to leave you my inheritance. I don't need your money. I know you don't need it, he said, but it's the only thing I can do. Part of the Zheng Corporation's shares. Some real estate. Altogether worth several billion. I hope you'll accept it. Several billion. A figure enough to tempt anyone. But I shook my head. I don't want it. He paused. Why? Because I don't want people saying I came to see you for your money. He looked at me, a complex emotion flashing in his eyes. After a long while, he sighed. You're as stubborn as your mother. I stood. I'm leaving. I turned toward the door. Yuanzhou. I stopped. Didn't look back. I'm sorry. I stood there a few seconds, then kept walking, exiting the villa, stepping into Hong Kong's sunlight. Behind me, the man in the wheelchair watched my retreating figure, gaze lingering long. After returning from Hong Kong, I made a decision. I held a press conference. In front of all media, I announced renouncing all inheritance rights to the Lin Corporation. The Lin Corporation is the Lin family's enterprise. It should be inherited by Lin family members. I am not of Lin blood. I have no right to possess this property. Reporters erupted. Mr. Lin, what are your plans going forward? Will you return to the Zheng family? Have you acknowledged Henry Zheng? I looked at those expectant faces below, answering calmly. I will continue operating my company. Cloud build is my career, my future. As for other matters, I paused. Let the past be the past. People should always look forward. After the press conference, I walked out of the venue, saw Sophia waiting at the entrance. She wore a simple white shirt and jeans, holding a bouquet of sunflowers, laughing brightly under the sun. Let's go, she said. Home for dinner. What's for dinner? Tomato and egg noodles. Your favorite. I smiled, walked over, took her hand. Sophia. Yes, let's get married. She froze, the sunflowers nearly dropping from her hand. What did you say? I said, let's get married. I looked into her eyes, speaking earnestly. After experiencing so much, I finally understand. Family, wealth, status, none of it matters. What matters is, no matter what I become, you're by my side. Her eyes reddened, tears welling in her orbits. Ethan Lin, you finally woke up. She rose on tiptoe, kissing me. Behind us, the setting sun stretched our shadows long. 1 year later, during the Qingming drizzly rain, I stood at the foot of Nanshan Cemetery, a bouquet of white chrysanthemums in hand. Thin threads of rain drifted from the sky, cool on my face. Distant mountains were veiled in light mist, visible and invisible, like an unfinished ink-wash painting. Grandfather was buried on this mountain. I climbed the stone steps one by one, footsteps particularly clear in the quiet forest. Green pines and cypresses lined both sides. Occasional bird calls from the thickets, accentuating the solemnity of this burial ground. Grandfather's tombstone was on the mid-slope, facing south, with an open view. On clear days, one could see the city's outline in the distance. He liked climbing high to look far when alive, saying only from above could one see far. Now sleeping here, it could be considered fulfilling his wish. I stopped before the tombstone, bent to place the chrysanthemums on the base. Engraved on the stone, grandfather's name, Lin Jintian. Below, birth and death dates, and a line of small characters. A lifetime of integrity. Ashamed before neither heaven nor earth, I crouched, brushing fallen leaves and dust from the stone surface. Grandfather, I've come to see you. The fine rain fell silently on the stone, as if he were responding. I sat before the tomb, not caring if the ground was damp, just sitting casually, like when I'd sit by grandfather listening to his stories as a child. A lot happened this year, I said. I've handed the Lin Corporation back to Dad. He's more assertive now. The board members don't dare bully him anymore. Mom's health is good, just constantly nagging about you, asking if you're cold or hungry. Alone over there. I converted the old residence into an orphanage, taking in over 30 abandoned children. I think if your spirit is aware, you'd approve. You left me in the Lin family, gave me a home. Now I pass that kindness forward. Consider it repaying you. Cloud Build is doing well. Last year's revenue broke 200 million. Cooperation with the Zheng Corporation continues. Vincent occasionally invites me for tea. but we never mention old matters. As for Henry Zheng, he passed away last month. I attended the funeral, watched from afar, didn't approach. Sophia is pregnant, due this autumn. A daughter. I plan to name her Lin Yanin, Nian meaning remembrance, En meaning grace, to commemorate grandfather's nurturing, and those who helped me in difficult times. My voice choked up here. I paused, drew a deep breath, composed myself. Grandfather, honestly, I used to hate you. Hated you for kicking me out. Hated you for not giving me a chance to explain. Hated you for leaving me utterly alone in my most helpless time. But later I learned the truth. Learned everything you did was to protect me. Only then did I understand. You endured far more than I. You not only faced Michael's betrayal, but also had to bear my misunderstanding and resentment. You passed with me not by your side. That's my life's greatest regret. But I want to tell you, I don't hate you anymore. I forgive you. Or rather, I forgave you long ago. I just never had the courage to say it. I lowered my head, forehead resting against the cold tombstone. Grandfather, you rest well over there. Once I've arranged matters here, I'll bring Sophia and the child to see you. Then, I'll tell you stories about your great-granddaughter. The rain gradually lessened. A beam of sunlight pierced the clouds, illuminating the tombstone, lighting up grandfather's name. I stood, bowed deeply, turning to descend. I saw a person standing at the mountain's foot. It was James Lin. No, now I should call him Dad, though no blood relation. He'd raised me over 20 years. This kindness couldn't be erased by a paper appraisal report. He wore a gray jacket, hair mostly white, looking much older than a year ago, but in good spirits. He carried a bamboo basket with offerings and incense candles. Dad, I called. He paused, then his eyes reddened. Yes, he answered, voice trembling. You came to see grandfather. Yes. Then, shall we go up together? I nodded, walked up the mountain shoulder to shoulder with him. The mountain path wasn't wide, walking side by side. Our shoulders occasionally touched. Neither of us spoke, but the silence wasn't awkward, rather, a rare tranquility. At grandfather's tomb, father laid out the offerings, lit incense, respectfully kowtowed 3 times. Dad, he said to the tombstone, Yuanzhou came to see you. He's doing well down there. The company's quite large. You can rest assured. I stood to the side, watching father's stooped back, a sourness rising in my chest. Dad, I spoke up. You've worked hard this year. He turned, looking at me with a smile. Hard. It's all part of the job. Rather, you, holding such a large company alone. Also taking care of the family. That's truly hard work. I'm not working hard. I have Sophia with me. Good, good. He nodded, eyes full of gratification. Yuanzhou, Dad wronged you in the past. When you were kicked out, Dad didn't dare say a word. Dad is a coward, unworthy of being your father. Don't say that. I walked over, patted his shoulder. You'll always be my father. He looked up at me, tears streaming down the wrinkles of his face. Yuanzhou, all right, enough talk. I interrupted. Let's head down. Mom is waiting at home. He wiped his tears, nodded. We walked down one ahead, one behind. Midway down, I suddenly stopped. Dad, yes, thank you. He turned, looking at me, eyes shining. For what? For not abandoning me. He laughed, the smile warm. Silly child, you're my son. How could I abandon you? After leaving the cemetery, I didn't go home directly, but drove to the old residence. That once glorious Lin family mansion was now a bustling orphanage. The plaque over the gate had been replaced with 4 characters. Morning light home. Sophia had inscribed it. She said morning light represented hope. I just parked when I heard children's laughter from the courtyard. Through the iron fence, I saw a dozen children chasing and playing, several volunteers watching over them, all with smiles. I pushed open the gate and walked in. A 4 or 5-year-old girl ran headlong toward me, nearly bumping into my leg. I bent to lift her. She giggled, small hands clutching my collar. Uncle Lin, look at my drawing. She held up a crumpled sheet of paper. On it a crooked house, several people standing in front, drawn in crayon, colors glaringly bright, drawn really well. I praised. Who is this? This is Principal Mom. This is Teacher Wang. This is Uncle Lin. This is Aunt Sophia. She pointed at each figure in turn. And this is me. Awesome. I rubbed her head. Go play. She slid from my arms, ran back to the children. I stood in the courtyard, watching these children play carefree, an indescribable sense of fulfillment welling up. Grandfather was right. Life's greatest value isn't how much wealth you possess, but how many people you can help. You've come. A familiar voice came from behind. I turned to see Mother walking out of the house. She wore a plain sweater, hair pinned at the back, face bearing a faint smile. Mom, went to see grandfather. Yes, went with Dad. She nodded, walked over, took my hand. Come, let's sit inside. It's cold out here. I walked in with her. The old residence's interior layout hadn't changed much, just renovated. Some children's facilities added. The living room was converted into an activity room. Walls plastered with children's drawings and crafts. Colorful and full of childlike charm. Mother poured me a cup of tea. Sat opposite me. Yuanzhou, Mom wants to tell you something. Go ahead. She was silent a while, as if organizing her words. About your biological father, do you blame Mom? No. Really. I held her hand. Mom, this year I've figured out a lot. In life, who hasn't made mistakes? What matters is, after making mistakes, whether you can make amends, whether you can move forward. You raised me, gave me the best education, made me an upright person. That's enough. Other things don't matter. Mother's tears fell. Yuanzhou, you've grown up. I grew up long ago. I smiled. Just wasn't willing to admit it before. She wiped her tears. Smiled too. Yes, you've grown up. About to be a father. At this topic, my smile softened. Sophia is due in October. Then you must help us with the baby. Of course. Mother patted her chest. I've been looking forward to this for years. Evening time. I returned to the home Sophia and I shared. Not some luxury villa. Just an ordinary condo. 3 bedrooms. 1 living room. On the city's east side. Not large, but cozily kept. On the living room wall hung a cross-stitch Sophia had made herself. Embroidered with 4 characters. Harmony brings prosperity. Sophia was on the sofa watching TV. One hand on her rounded belly, the other holding the remote. Seeing me enter, she set down the remote. Looking at me with a smile. Back. Yes. I changed into slippers. Walked over. Sat beside her. Reached to touch her belly. Was the little one good today? Very good. Just kicked me several times this afternoon. Quite forceful. Takes after me. I smiled. Full of energy since little. Please. If it takes after you. That's terrible. I don't want to birth a little devil. We both laughed. Outside, the sky gradually darkened. The city's lights igniting one by one. On the distant horizon, the last trace of sunset was dissipating, replaced by brilliant starlight. I put my arm around Sophia's shoulder, watching the night view outside. Unprecedentedly calm. Sophia. Yes. What do you think is most important in a person's life? She thought a moment, answering seriously. To love and be loved. That's it. Just that simple. Just that simple. She turned to look at me. Think about it. Back then, you were the billionaire's grandson. Wealthy and powerful. But were you happy? I pondered seriously. Not happy. Exactly. Later, when you were kicked out, penniless, you instead lived more fulfilled than before. Why? Because you found what you truly wanted, career, love, family. These things are far more important than money. I looked at her, a warm current welling in my chest. Sophia, thank you. For what? For not leaving me at my lowest. She smiled. The smile gentle. Silly. If I'd left, who'd give you a child? I couldn't help laughing. Holding her tighter. Right. She suddenly remembered something. Today someone delivered a letter. Placed it in the mailbox. I brought it in for you. On the shoe cabinet. A letter. Who sent it? Don't know. No sender. But the envelope had your name. I stood. Walked to the shoe cabinet. Picked up the letter. An ordinary white envelope. No stamp. No postmark. Clearly placed directly into the mailbox. On it, 3 characters. Ethan Lin. Personal. I tore open the envelope. Withdrew a folded sheet of letter paper. The paper was somewhat yellowed. Seemed aged. Unfolding it, rows of familiar handwriting met my eyes. Grandfather's script. My heart gave a violent jump. The letter began. To my grandson Yuanzhou. When you read this letter, grandfather should no longer be in this world. Some words I couldn't say while alive, so I write them down. Leave them for you. First, grandfather must say to you, I'm sorry. Sorry for expelling you in that manner back then. Sorry for causing you so much grievance. Sorry for not witnessing you start a family and build a career. But grandfather does not regret it. If given another chance, grandfather would still do the same. Because only thus could I protect you. Keep you far from those sordid dealings and sinister hearts. You may not know, grandfather's greatest regret in life was not seeing Michael Lin's true face sooner. By the time I saw clearly, it was too late. He held too many people's leverage, including mine. If I didn't comply, the entire Lin family would be dragged down. Therefore, I could only sacrifice you. Yuanzhou, you were grandfather's most beloved grandson. From childhood to adulthood, you were intelligent, sensible, responsible, 10,000 times stronger than that worthless Nathan. Grandfather always took pride in you. Only, I never told you. Grandfather's life earned much money, offended many people. But grandfather's conscience is clear, because every cent was earned through skill, every enemy toppled openly and honorably. Only toward you. Grandfather carries guilt. Therefore, grandfather leaves you one thing. Not money, not houses, not shares, but one sentence. In life, be worthy of your own conscience. This sentence was passed to grandfather by his grandfather. Now, grandfather passes it to you. Regardless of what you do in the future, regardless of whose son you are, as long as you remember this sentence, grandfather's spirit can rest in peace. All right, that's all. Grandfather is tired. Wants to rest. Yuanzhou, take care. Love. Grandfather Charles Lin. Final letter. When I finished the last word, tears already blurred my vision. The letter trembled slightly in my hand. Those shaky strokes were written by grandfather during his critical illness, using his last ounce of strength. Each word carried his deep love and guilt for me. I knelt on the floor, pressed the letter to my chest, wailing. Sophia walked over, crouched beside me, gently embracing me. Yuanzhou, grandfather, he always loved you. I cried. He always loved me. Sophia patted my back, her voice also somewhat choked. He always loved you. I cried a long time, until tears were spent, then slowly calmed. Carefully, I folded the letter, tucked it back into the envelope, kept it close to my body. This was grandfather's final gift to me, more precious than any wealth. Late at night, I stood on the balcony, looking at the star-filled sky. Sophia was asleep. The little one in her belly had quieted. The city slept in darkness. Only the occasional distant dog bark. I raised my head, searching for the brightest star. Grandfather said, after death, people become stars in the sky, guarding those they love. I didn't know if it was true, but I was willing to believe it. Grandfather, I whispered, rest assured, I'll be fine. I'll be worthy of my own conscience. I'll be a person you can be proud of. I'll tell your story to your great-granddaughter. Tell her she had an incredible great-grandfather. Night wind brushed gently, like grandfather caressing my face. I closed my eyes, a trace of a smile lifting the corners of my mouth. All hatred had been set down. All pain had healed. What remained was only love and longing. And that sentence grandfather left me. In life, be worthy of your own conscience. I will. Grandfather, I promise you,